It has been a hallmark of Kansas City Chiefs football ever since Andy Reid drove into town, and that is to be prepared for everything. So Green Bay, we're getting closer. Green Bay, here we come, and it's Pip again. That is prepared, in position. And this Defending the Kingdom episode will focus in as we get closer to the draft. Of course, it's brought to you by Ticketmaster. They are your best friends, even throughout the spring, summer, and getting ready for the season for concerts, special events, and, of course, the 2025 season.
Mahomes keeps it on an RPO at the 5, gets a lead block. He goes into the end zone near side. Touchdown, Kansas City.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mitch Holthus, voice of the Chiefs, along with senior team reporter Matt McMullen. And here we are. One of the great things, I like Matt a lot, but one of the things I like about Matt is his dog. And we've talked about his dog, Pip, before. And anytime I can find an acronym that will fit Pip the dog, I talk about the spirit of Pip a lot when I speak publicly. A lot of you have heard that in my presentations. But this Pip is prepared, in position. Pip for the Kansas City Chiefs as they approach the 2025 NFL Draft in Green Bay. And that's what we're going to focus on in the next several minutes. But a shout-out to Pip, the best dog on the planet right now.
Pip the dog. One day we'll do a full special on how Mitch and I might be clinically insane with the amount of superstition we place on my dog. I mean, it's got us to 3 straight Super Bowls, and we've won 2 of them. So I remember this. So Mitch created the whole spirit of Pip, kind of talking about like we need to play with the spirit of my crazy dog years ago. And I so distinctly remember walking into my office the morning of the AFC Championship game in 2022 against the Bengals. Big game, kind of a crossroads moment in the history of the Kansas City Chiefs, in my opinion. And we're all, ready to go, but we're stressed out. It's a big game. And I walk in my office, and Mitch has left a sticky note that says SOP, Spirit of Pip, on my computer. I have not moved that. It's been like 3 years now. It's still right there on my computer. Hasn't fallen off. I don't mess with it, and it's brought us some pretty good luck.
I talk about the spirit of Pip and the power of the mangy mutt because Pip is if you want to go win a purple ribbon, watch the movie Dog Show, which is one of the great movies of all time, and want some dog prancing around, fine. If you want your best hunting dog, your best farm dog, your best guard dog, go get a mangy mutt like Pip, who is a beautiful dog, by the way. So anyway, but prepared and in position. That's where the Chiefs are. Before we dive into that, let's go around the world.
Yep, let's do it. I got 6 for you today for Brian Cook, who might have an even bigger role here this year with Justin Reed no longer in town.
Which, by the way, in the 2022 draft, I have to tell you, I wish I could have videoed it. When we took Brian Cook, you basically flew, you elevated above the table.
Well, it's fun during the draft process because Mitch and I cram for like 2 months, like all these prospects, trying to learn as much as we can. And we'll have so much fun like texting each other saying, did you watch so-and-so? Did you watch this guy or that guy? And early in the draft process, I just watched Brian Cook and I'm like, this guy's really good. He could be, a great versatile safety who can hit and tackle, but also cover. And then we got him in the second round. Makes you feel kind of good about yourself that when you're watching these hours of tape, maybe, just maybe, Brett Veach likes those guys too, and we kind of know what we're doing. I don't know. Anyway, we pretend to at least. So 6 today. I saw Dane working security over at the Royals game on Thursday. I've met Dane before, and the Royals won that night. It was one of those crazy games where it was 1-1, and in the 8th inning, Bobby Witt grounded out to the pitcher, but the Twins pitcher overthrew the first baseman, and Witt just took off, made it to third, and then Vinny Pasquantino had a little dribbler that went 20 feet, but the defense couldn't make a play, and Witt scored. Royals won. It was great.
Was that the game Pip was in? Is a dog in the park game?
This is a different game. I've been to a lot of Royals games already this year. We went to Bark in the Park against the Orioles a couple Fridays ago. We were there for 4 or 5 innings. Pip will do it for a little bit, and then she's like, we got to go. It was also 30 degrees and raining. But we went. It was fun. And I think the Royals won that one, too. I was at Chipotle earlier this week and ran into Bob in line. He worked for the Chiefs for 30 years, beginning in the 70s. Really small world. Told me some stories about when he was working for the Chiefs. I think he was in accounting. But really nice guy. And we just were passing the time in the Chipotle line. So shout out to you, Bob.
Bob Sturton? Was that his name?
Gosh. I can't remember his last name, but maybe. He was here a long time.
I was thinking of a Bob in accounting, and I don't know why Bob Sturton flew into my head.
It very well could be him.
All right.
Yeah, but he loved the Chiefs, loved his time here, and still in the area. I met Eric at Royals opening day. That's now 3 Royals games that I've been to. I was in the parking lot just tailgating with some friends, and Eric introduced himself, so shout out to you, Eric. Samantha is listening from Indiana. Chad is originally from Independence, Missouri, graduated from William Chrisman High School.
The Bears.
There we go. It's a good mascot. I like that.
That's a good one.
He now lives in Florida. And then remember Becky from South Olathe? You're wondering what high school she went to?
Yeah.
She went to Shawnee Mission Northwest, home of the...
They're the Cougars.
Yep, there you go.
Yep. 2-time state basketball champions. They've been really good. And their fight song is the University of Houston fight song.
Really?
They came into being... Shawnee Mission Northwest, late 60s, early 70s, when the University of Houston was kind of coming into its own. Football, crazy, putting up numbers, Warren McVeigh, and then also basketball, Elvin Hayes, and all of that time. So what Shawnee Mission did is like, we're going to be the Cougars. Let's take the Houston Cougars fight song.
Okay, well, that's pretty cool.
So if you go to Shawnee Mission Northwest game, you're going to hear the University of Houston fight song.
Tough one for the Houston Cougars a few days ago.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Seeing Kelvin Sampson, just seeing the life flash in front of his eyes.
That's tough.
He's 69. This is his shot.
Mm-hmm.
And, rough.
That's tough. Sports are tough.
They are tough.
That's why winning is so awesome.
Yep, believe us, it's tough. But you go, if you're in it long enough, you win Super Bowl rings, win 3 of them like we have. Very proud of it. And then you also down 34-0 in a Super Bowl to a really good Philadelphia team, which is what we're trying to rebound from as we get ready for 2025. And I always talk, too, publicly about how the Chiefs are awesome at handling flashpoints, but they prepare. And the first thing we're going to do here is talk about review really quickly since March the 12th and what has happened. And where Brett Veach has been intentional, strategic with his staff, and this includes salary cap staff. This includes everybody, the whole building, really. But Brett's been brilliant. So 9 new players, 4 on offense, 5 on defense. Kept 13 players. If you go back to the previous episodes, it's the green, red, black. Green, you gain players. Red, you lose players. And black, you keep players. So 9 new players, 4 offense and 5 defense. Kept 13. 5 offense, 6 defense, 2 special teamers. In this, since March the 12th, we have either signed or kept offensive linemen, wide receivers, running backs, tight ends, and quarterbacks, interior linemen, edge players, linebackers, corners, and safeties, and specialists. To me, that feels like it covers everything. And what we've done here is position ourselves not to be desperate or predictable going into the 2025 draft. The Chiefs and Brett Veach have done a masterful job every year of that where the cards stay close to the vest.
Yeah, 100%. And a quick side note, you and I had talked before off camera about how this had to be a short episode because I had to go get my windows looked at. The guy just texted me and said that later in the day works, so we don't have to truncate this episode anymore. For those listening, you're like, just get on with it. Anyway, I'm with you on that.
We can't do that. That'd be an ethics violation.
Yeah, I think it would be.
Give this guy a 10. Windows are expensive.
So I've learned that during this process because we have an older house, and a lot of the windows are original, like from 1949. And it's not so much the window. The window actually is holding up well. It's the framing of it that just looks bad. I want to replace them. And I've learned over the last couple weeks that windows are very expensive. Getting a third quote here today. But this guy is down to meet me later today, so I don't have to worry about getting through this super quick. I am with you about everything you said because it is impossible to predict who will be available at 31 overall. And throughout the draft. This is what we talk about all the time with the parity of the NFL. It's designed so teams like the Chiefs cannot sustain success. Well, they found a way to do that over the years. Got to find a way to keep doing it. And one way to do that is to not bank on a certain position or player falling to you at 31 overall. That is a losing strategy. And what the Chiefs have done here is they have addressed a lot of needs and a lot of holes on this roster so they can approach the draft saying, we're going to take the best players available. You don't have to take an offensive tackle because you believe that Jalen Moore can come in here and compete for a starting role on this team. You don't have to take a defensive back because you go out and get Christian Fulton and you think he can help fill a role on this team as an outside corner who can really help Steve Spagnuolo in this defense. You don't have to take a defensive tackle because you go out and get Jerry Tillery, former first-round pick who you believe in and who is still young and can contribute. So what I'm trying to say is when the board falls, we're going to watch and see what position, what player is there. And when you approach an offseason like the Chiefs have, we're not going to look at it and say, all the blank position are gone. What are we going to do? It's the opposite. It's, hey, these guys went early. This guy's still on the board, and this guy can help us somehow, some way. And I love how we've approached this offseason because, as we'll get into, again, banking on a certain position or player at 31 overall is not a good strategy.
Nope, and we'll get into how you basically have insurance against that, and we'll give you practical examples of how the Chiefs have done exactly that. But attacking this draft, this is what Brett Veach does. He attacks them. We've seen him regularly move up. He's moved down, and like in 21, basically, and think what happened in the 21 draft to get Nick Bolton and Creed Humphrey, then later in the 6th round to get Trey Smith. But attacking this draft, the 31st, if everything stays the same, 31st, 63rd, 66, 95. Let's take those 4 picks. You're getting 4 picks as a team that has been to 5 Super Bowls in the last 6 years. You're getting 4 of the top 100 picks. That, to me, positions the Chiefs to be able to attack and be aggressive in the draft.
Is the 66 the L.J. Snead trade?
Yes.
That pick working out the way that it did, I mean, that's just incredible GMing by Brett Veach and this entire front office. But, yeah, I mean, what an opportunity. This is something that we talked about ahead of the 2022 draft, that how often do you have it where you have a team that is in this championship window, and as long as Patrick Mahomes is here, we're in a championship window, but you have so much young talent on this team and talent that's been to Super Bowls and won Super Bowls, and you have a chance to add to it here. A lot of times teams that are in the position that the Chiefs are in over the decades, those teams are up against it. They're running out of time. They're older, or it's a team that's kind of on the downtrend. Well, the Chiefs are not that, because the Chiefs are still one of the youngest teams in the NFL. They have the best quarterback in the league. They have the best coach in the NFL, and they have an opportunity to get even better with this draft. And that's why the Chiefs, in addition to, of course, having Mahomes and Kelsey and Chris Jones and Coach Reed, the way that Brett Veach has been able to constantly refill this roster with talent through the draft, despite picking at the bottom of each round, is just incredible. So I can't wait to see what we have in store here. I'm more excited for this draft than I have been in previous years, and I'm normally really excited for the draft. And this year, for some reason, just because of the opportunity ahead of us, and also the way the team has been positioned to really just take the best players available and just make this roster better, not worrying too much about reaching for certain positions, I'm just really fired up about it.
Yeah, and that's why we're calling it prepared in position. That's what Brett Veach and his staff have done. And even the 3 picks in the 7th round. Sounds strangely familiar. If it is, it's the 2022 draft. There were 3 picks in the 7th round. Oh, let's see. Isaiah Pacheco, Jalen Watson, and Najee Johnson. All 3 have been to Super Bowls in their first 3 years and won 2 of them. You do an awesome job. And if follow Matt in his articles he does on certain rounds, because other 7th round picks, this is your 2024 article, Kevin Ross, Dave Zott, we mentioned the 3 and 22, Nick Allegretti. So you don't sleep on the 7th round at all, and the fact that you have 3 picks in the 7th, who could come out of that group? Brett Veach and his staff have shown they've done a remarkable job. Now, let's go back to your point and revisit it about being prepared and in position, because where the Chiefs have been able to, by putting yourselves in a position, not being exposed in any certain area, or teams know you're desperate, that's when you make a reach pick many times, or you become vulnerable to a trade where you can be exposed.
Yeah.
Okay?
For sure.
Or, here's the biggest one, what Brett Veach has done and what the Chiefs have done, there is always a rush on a position. Always a rush. And that rush happens before we pick at 31 or 32 or 31 or 32, where we've been the last several years. Let's take 22. Let's take 21. The first 3 picks were quarterbacks, 2021. So what did that do? It put Brett Veach in a position where he traded down. And he gets, and let's be honest, we've said this before, once you get past pick 20, it does seem to be kind of muddled with an extension of the 2nd round and even the 3rd. So there's like 60, what would that be? 60, 10 more picks, like 70 picks that all seem to be in the same popcorn popper. Because what Brett Veach did in 21 was able to trade down and get Nick Bolton, Creed Humphrey, and then later Trey Smith in the 6th.
Yeah, what's always funny about the draft is there are generally, unless someone forfeits their pick, 32 picks in the first round, right? Well, over the course of the draft process and all the analysis and the mock drafts and everything that happened weeks and months before the draft, depending on where you look, like 60 players are supposed to go in the first round, right? And that makes it impossible to know who exactly is actually going to be there, who would be a reach, who would be a player that would be a great value. And that's where you rely on your scouting staff. Every front office is different. And even though you kind of assume every team has like a great, rock-solid scouting staff, I truly believe that not always the case, and we're very fortunate to have a great one here in Kansas City, and the results speak for themselves, finding those guys in the 7th round like Pacheco and Jalen Watson and Najee Johnson, guys that are being picked in the 200s and contribute and help you win Super Bowls. I mean, that's really hard to do, and our scouting staff is second to none. But I look at like 2023, I think it was, where there was a lot of buzz that the Chiefs might want to take a receiver, right? So you might be watching the draft saying, okay, let's see where the top receivers are. And not a single receiver was taken in that draft, I believe, through the first 19 picks. And where we were picking, it's like, okay, great. Like, we can probably get a receiver here. Like, at least one of the top 4 guys is going to be there, right? Well, no, because then immediately at pick number 20, Jackson Smith and Jigba goes. Then Quentin Johnston goes at 21, Zay Flowers at 22, and Jordan Addison at 23. So again, if you're watching the draft and saying, I want this position in the first round no matter what, and you're picking at 31, you might be disappointed because something like that might happen. So again, the Chiefs are in a great spot here where I can't tell you there's one position they have to take. If you really look at this roster and dig into it, look at the talent, look at the depth that we have, they don't have to do that. They can really let the board fall to them, which is what the best teams do, and the Chiefs through the years have done a great job of that.
I've given the analogy of playing bridge and bidding no trump, meaning you're not relying on diamonds, spades, clubs, or hearts. You can play them all. And that's where Brett Veach is in with the staff in this draft. 22, the run on wide receivers. Very similar. That was the big wide receiver class. Boom, 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 here we go. But what it did was push Trent McDuffie in a position where he could make the trade to get to 21. Brett Veach could. And in the first round, you get McDuffie and Karlaftis.
It's crazy.
So, and that was produced because of the run. In 24, it happened again last year. 6 quarterbacks were taken in the first 12 picks. Well, that shoves down Xavier Worthy, who in maybe some other draft would have been taken long before the Chiefs would pick. What do? They move with Buffalo up to 28 and get Xavier Worthy, reacting to the run. But being able to react to the run in a myriad of ways is where the Chiefs have been able to really make their hay in the draft.
Yeah, it gets back to what I was saying about how there are like 50 or 60 players that everyone thinks will go in the first round. Kind of the same for the top 15. There's like 30 players that everyone thinks are going to go in the top 15, which obviously doesn't make any sense. And that's why on draft night in 2022, we do our live show, and we don't know who we're taking until we find out with you all. And when we found out that we were getting Trent McDuffie, I remember thinking to myself, throughout the entire draft process, I didn't even think that was a possibility because he was going to be a top 15 pick. And for him to fall to 21 and Brett trades up and gets him, just an amazing selection. And getting George Karlaftis at, was it 30 overall?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, that was another guy that I think if you look around in the pre-draft stuff in 2022, most people thought George Karlaftis was going at least in the top 25, probably top 20. You get him at 30 overall. Just a matter of taking advantage of those opportunities. And in that draft, looking back at it, I don't think corner was necessarily a huge, like, hey, the Chiefs have to take a corner in the first round. But when Trent McDuffie's there, it's like, we have to go get that guy. And now I can't really imagine this defense without Trent McDuffie. I assure you, we don't win 2 Super Bowls in 3 years without Trent McDuffie. We've talked about his play against Brock Purdy in that nickel blitz where he batted on the pass and gave Mahomes an opportunity to tie and later win the game. We don't do any of that without Trent McDuffie, and that was foresight by Brett Veach to say we don't necessarily need a corner right now, but we can go get a future all-pro corner if we want to, and they did that. And I look forward to hopefully doing that again here in a couple weeks.
And again, if you hedge your bet that way, you can move up or down, and we've seen Brett Veach do that. So, again, the Chiefs are unpredictable in the draft, but it's a really big deal to be able to react to the run because there are some teams that after the run happens and you've got precious minutes to make the decision, they don't handle it well, or they're exposed at a certain spot. And sometimes the run can be surprising. We've seen it, that it becomes shocking. But you're like, okay, the run came at this position. Here's how we'll adjust. And either trade down, trade up to get McDuffie, or pick this certain spot. And honestly, the Chiefs have done this year after year after year, especially since COVID, when you see how this roster has been put together. The picking at 31 and 63 and 66, because I'm going to throw those three together, leave 95 out of it. But again, we said this popcorn popper that once you get past 20 in most drafts, there's not much difference, right?
Especially this year, I think.
This year, for sure. Now, the one thing of a first-round pick is the fifth-year option. We mentioned that. You get the fifth-year option. Xavier Worthy, the Chiefs will have a fifth-year option with him where he wouldn't necessarily enter free agency if they exercise that option to keep him for an additional year. So that's an advantage for a team in the first round. Other than that, you can do some real damage here. But what you want to do, in my opinion, and this has been proven, in 31, 63, or 66, you want a day-one starter.
Yeah.
Who at that day one starter then eventually becomes a Pro Bowler. That's your A grade here. And if you're drafting top 10, you want a Pro Football Hall of Famer eventually. But if you're sitting at 31, 63, or 66, focus in on getting a starter and one who would eventually become a Pro Bowl or All-Pro player. And I think maybe you and I are in agreement here where defensive line, especially the interior defensive line, there seems to be more names there. And I'm going to give you the Surgeon General's warning here. We did not talk to Brett Veach. In fact, we're in peril here.
These are our opinions.
These are our opinions, right?
Mitch and Matt. This is not the Chiefs.
And the worst thing, anyway, we're just, this is the Surgeon. Don't say this is what Veach is thinking because, no, it's just us.
And that happens sometimes because I do like videos on different position groups and I'll just talk about certain players that I like. And sometimes people will comment things like, ooh, this is a smokescreen. It's like, no, this is just Matt. This is just Matt talking. This is nobody else talking. So, yeah, everything that we're going to say here is just us, okay?
So just us. And looking at day one starters on the defensive line, which to me would be a home run out of the park, Bobby Wood Jr. gaining 2 bags on a one-base error, would be finding a inside defensive replacement, or not a replacement, a great compliment, especially to Chris Jones.
Yeah.
Now, what Brett Veach has done again, that defensive line rotation, which to me, and I've talked to Spags about this a lot, was a big reason the Chiefs got to the Super Bowl, went 15-2. The Chiefs were rare. They had an 8-player rotation on the defensive front. We talked about guys going inside and outside. But to be able to move guys in and out and not really miss a beat. So you got to replace Turk Wharton. You lose Derek Nottie, but you get Mike Pennell back. You talked about Tillery coming in. But if you can get someone in the 31, 63, or 66, that becomes a day one starter who can be right there with Chris Jones and the rest and regain that 8-man rotation. Now you're really poised to take a run at the whole enchilada again in 2025. A couple guys come to mind here. I'll let you start and see what you say. Interior defensive line, if it was you to pick, I'll let you have 2, and I'll pick 2.
I think it's funny, too, because Chris Jones was picked in that range that you're talking about. He was the first pick of the second round, right?
He was.
Yeah, sure was, way back in 2016.
Yep.
Yeah, so you can find really good players there. And I think, just like you said, the depth and the strength of this draft, particularly in the context of the Chiefs, is the defensive line. And maybe particularly defensive tackle. A lot of good edge players, too, that I like a lot. But defensive tackle is really intriguing. And we're going to have an opportunity, I think, to add to our defensive line in this draft. But, quick caveat, talking about like the runs and stuff, it's possible a run could happen like at 21 overall where all the players that we talk about go. And fortunately, again, we keep like hitting home this point. But the Chiefs are in a position where if that happened, I'd be like, okay, like there's plenty of other spots to go. So anyway.
And honestly, I predict that's where the run will be.
Could be, yeah.
I think the run will be after pick 17 or 18 on the defensive line. And they just start flying off the board.
So I'm picking 1 guy or 2 guys?
You get 2.
2, okay. Well, Derek Harmon's one guy that I like a lot, that I've watched quite a bit from Oregon. Just 1 year at Oregon. He was a Michigan State transfer, but had just an incredible season for them. I think he had like 55 pressures. I think that led all interior defensive linemen in the FBS last year. This is a really disruptive player who's also really good against the run. So Derek Harmon's a guy to know. And then a guy that I know you like a lot as well is Walter Nolan from Ole Miss. Just a game wrecker at interior defensive tackle, an All-American last year, great pass rusher, great against the run, just a really, really good player. So I'm not breaking any news here with those guys. Those are two of the top defensive tackles in this draft. But Derek Harmon and Walter Nolan are certainly two names to know.
I'd be thrilled if the Chiefs get either one of those guys. Because I think they can be day one starter, just as we explained.
Next to Chris Jones, one of those guys. Are you kidding me?
Come on, let's go. With the edge guys we already have.
Yeah.
Right? Because Charles Omenahu's re-signed, and you have an emerging or improving FAU out there. Still have Karlaftis and Mike Dana. They're all here, folks. That's what I'm telling you. My two I would pick. And again, when you look at these defensive linemen, if you're a draft nerd, you really have to look at scheme as well. Because in this group of players that fit this inside defensive tech, 3 tech, 0 tech, 1 tech, kind of 5 tech, is what is Spags' scheme? And how do they, being versatile and being a two-gap guy, right? So think of I don't want to say a better version of Turk Wharton because he was really good. But so I'm going scheme specific to what Spags would go. He'd knuckle on the table. So Tyleik Williams of Ohio State's a two-gap guy that has shown some explosiveness as well. All right?
Oh, yeah.
I know I'm only going to pick two, but I'm going to throw in third. Darius Alexander. But the guy I like, and I like him because he was one of those I sent to you of going,
oh, yeah.
I can't stop watching this guy. I went back and watched him because I saw a young Chris Jones. And it's Alfred Collins of Texas. Here's where I'm at on every position in this draft is wingspan. Maybe I'm affected by Super Bowl 59.
Yeah.
Because Josh Sweat's wingspan dominated. Okay, wingspan. It's the most underrated metric in all of sports, all of it. And when I see Collins, I see a guy that's willing to play two-gap, 7 passes deflected, 7 blocked kicks, plays two-gap, can still rush the passer. I think of him fingertip to fingertip with Charles Omenahu and Chris Jones, all with over 7-foot wingspans. So now I cover 23 feet of the field on the width.
That's crazy.
So I got to be careful you don't fall in love with any one guy because of the run that can happen. And any one of these guys that we mentioned, I'll be knuckling on the table for them. But that's an example.
And one thing that kind of is the common denominator, I think, with all of these players is their motor. I love with Collins. He's like 330 pounds. Yeah. But there is tape of him on screens turning around and chasing down the running back at 330 pounds. Like, you don't always see that, particularly for guys that know they're going to be drafted pretty early. They might be like, that's by me. That's not my area. I'm not rushing the passer anymore. It doesn't matter. Collins was like a gamer. Like, he wanted to win, and those are the players that I want here. And I really noticed that with Tyleik Williams as well, and Darius Alexander, a great run defender. A lot of times with these pass rushers, even at interior defensive tackle, they don't always want to play the run. They just want to rush the passer. Darius Alexander loves rushing the passer and rushing and tackling the running back and playing the run. So those are important things that I think we've seen throughout this process, and those are just a few names to know. There's going to be a lot of guys at defensive tackle who are intriguing, and again, I think it's where the depth of this class is.
Where does Toledo get these guys? Quinion Mitchell.
No idea.
If I go to Toledo and find guys like that every year, because you know how much I love Quinion Mitchell, and then I had to watch him in the Super Bowl against us.
I know.
But anyway,
and Kareem Hunt, and where do they find these guys? I don't know.
Shout out to the Toledo Rockets. We'll close out this way, but let's just look at the. Let's do a couple of them. Offensive line.
Yeah.
I'll let you pick a couple, and maybe I'll throw one in there.
Well, Josh Simmons is interesting.
Yeah.
Now, the thing with Simmons is he has 33-inch arms. So, speaking of the wingspan thing, a lot of times you like to see your tackles have like 35 or 34-inch arms. But Simmons is at 33, so I think that's good enough. And everything else in his game is really good, in my opinion. And he suffered a knee injury in October. And really, anywhere you look, any draft expert, they would agree that if he had not suffered that knee injury, he probably would have been like a top 15 pick, most likely. The knee injury is probably going to knock him down a little bit. And that's one of those situations for the Chiefs where if you could get a value selection like that of Josh Simmons, who I think allowed one quarterback hurry, not even a sack all year before he got injured in October, and was great last year as well in 2023. If you can get a player of that caliber who's a top 15 player at 31 overall because he had an injury, as long as you feel good about the medicals, that could be a pretty good situation to be in. So Simmons is interesting. Then also Josh Connerly Jr. out of Oregon is interesting as well. There's a lot of experience playing left tackle, high-end left tackle against very good teams. And I like how he kind of his mental resolve, because I talked to Eric Edholm, who does great draft stuff for NFL.com, and he talked about how Connerly got knocked on his back basically by Mike Green during the Senior Bowl. Mike Green's one of the top pass rushing prospects in the draft this year. And for a lot of players, they'd be really down on themselves. They'd just be like, oh man, this is my chance and I'm ruining it. Connerly didn't do that. He got right back up and had a great Senior Bowl after that. So I'm looking for those kind of things when you're picking at 31 overall. These guys are all talented. It's a matter of what do you have going on upstairs? What's your mental resolve like? How do you handle failure and turn that into success? And he showed me that during the Senior Bowl.
What I liked about his video was the fact that I watched him with Bo Nix, a right-handed quarterback, and then to get Dylan Gabriel, a left-handed quarterback. But to watch his versatility, Connerly, and his ability to move as well. We talked about the defensive guys, Collins being able to move on a screen. His movement, whether he's zone blocking or man blocking or screen, and to get to the second level, it kind of jumps out there. But the fact that he played with a right-handed quarterback and a left-handed quarterback and basically had to learn two languages, to me was impressive.
Good point.
Ariante Ursere, who is a Minnesota Gopher, but he's a Kansas City kid.
Ruskin High School.
Ruskin, baby. Let's go. I love it. And now he's more of a road grader type.
Yeah.
He's a run blocker. And maybe more of a right tackle than a left tackle, but there's something. He's going to help somebody in the National Football League for a while. I love it. But here's my Alfred Collins of offense.
Yeah.
And you know where I'm going. And it's Charles Grant of William & Mary.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. And you're going, well, wait a minute. He played at William & Mary. It's FCS. That's not even the best FCS league. And you're not going to get him because, I don't know, Sean McDermott went to William & Mary. And you know. And Mike Tomlin went to William & Mary. I love his video.
Yeah. Well, in the wingspan, right?
Wingspan. And everything's wingspan with me right now. Don't even talk about anybody unless we got 34 or 35-inch wingspan, because I'm Ace Ventura laces out all over my walls because of Super Bowl 59.
Yeah.
But that's where I'm at. But, again, Charles Grant's going to be a really good player in the NFL. He moves. And he's Trey Smith playing left tackle.
And the beauty of that is what the Chiefs have done in free agency, once again, to circle back on this point, is by going out and getting Jalen Moore, a guy that you think can compete for your starting job at left tackle. If the Chiefs take a tackle in this draft, they're not being asked, I guess unless they earn it, they're not being asked to go in there in week one and start at left tackle. That's a big ask, right? It's difficult to do that. And if you take a guy like Charles Grant, maybe on day 2 or early on day 3, wherever he goes, he can have the opportunity to grow and to learn and to compete, but he doesn't necessarily have to be your day one starter. That's a luxury that a lot of teams don't have, and frankly, the Chiefs haven't always had that luxury. So I'm with you on that.
And Matt, even like Rashawn Slater, who I watched him play at Northwestern, he's good for the Chargers. He has even had his struggles because the edge rushers are so good in this league
so
now.
Good. It's so hard. There's so many of them.
The best athlete and put him at left tackle, and it's just so hard for a rookie now. It makes you kind of appreciate more what Eric Fisher did.
Yeah.
Way back in 2013, 14, 15, 16, and on, is the fact that we threw him right into it. But it was a struggle for him, too. He's playing right tackle and didn't have to. I'm just telling you, you can take the best left tackle in any class, and it's going to be a problem for them in their first year, maybe even their second year.
The edge rushers are a great example of how humans have evolved over time, because these guys are all 6'5". A lot of them are lighter now, but they're between 240 and 260, and they can run a 4.4, and they have long arms. What are you supposed to do? It's really hard, and that's why not only do you have to have great physical traits, but also you have to have mental resolve playing that position, because sometimes you're going to get beat, and it's frustrating and it's difficult, but you have to go right back out there the very next snap and do your job. And that's hopefully what we're going to find here in this draft is some players, not just offensive tackle, all over the board, but who are great athletes. They're very talented, but also they buy into the culture here of you come in here, you learn this system, and you forget the last play, and you move forward. And we have so many guys like that. And that's why this team, one of the many reasons it's been so good over the years.
It's why when fans will say, hey, we'll just go get a left tackle. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's become more of a challenge than even the last 5 years, I think.
Yeah.
And we've seen rookies, the best rookies, they end up being good players, but they struggle early. We'll close with maybe a running back here. We got to find a third down back, let's just be honest. Who's that going to be? But to lose some P. Ryan, you know how much that hurts. He's going back to the Bengals.
I hate it.
But you got to find somebody. And Tootin to me, I got a couple of them here. Bracial Tootin, because I'm looking at speed here, like raw speed. Last year the Chiefs, brought this up on a past episode of Defending the Kingdom, had the most 2nd and 4s and 2nd and 5s of any team in the league. That's a good thing because that's Kareem Hunt, right? And with Pacheco still trying to come back from the injury, I'm looking at who can bust a big run, who can get a 50-yard run. Tootin is one of those, and there's been a Pacheco comp with him coming out. And then Jaden Blue of Texas, so a 4.33. These guys have to be receivers. Being a third down back is a little bit like left tackle in this league because you got to protect. I think of the image I have is P. Ryan picking up Derwin James on an A-gap blitz and ear hold the dude or he's going to kill Pat. And so there's a lot to that role and going, hey, go find a third down back. But I'm saying, who is a young Jerick McKinnon in this draft? Who's the new Jerick McKinnon? And so that's one thing.
And we could go a lot of different directions with this. I like Travion Henderson at Ohio State. I think he could be that infusion of juice into the backfield that we're talking about. Great speed, great production. I mean, he shared the backfield with Judkins at Ohio State. Both of them had over 1,000 yards. I'd take either of them. They're both really good players. But Henderson maybe fits that speed mold that you're talking about. Dylan Sampson out of Tennessee is interesting. That one would make my mom very happy. And Charles Davis would be very happy. I still love Cam Skattebo out of Arizona State. I know you do too. I just love how he's so slippery. He seems to be kind of falling when people are doing their draft boards. We'll see what happens over the course of draft weekend, but he's just a total gamer who I think Coach Reed would have a lot of fun with. And have you watched the kid from SMU at all?
I have.
Bashad Smith. He reminds me a lot of Jerick McKinnon when you watch him.
I'm glad you brought him up because, yes, and we know our guy down the hallway who wants to pick he had Carson Steele to pick. This is his pick, but
he's told you too, Jordan Giesler.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out to Jordan Giesler.
Jordan's got the guy. Yeah. I got the guy for this year. He's so proud he got Carson Steele last year.
So proud.
But there's something to that. But Skattebo, I saw him dominate games.
Yeah.
He took games and just said, my ball, my game. Mm-hmm. And that's when I thought, ooh, this guy is more than like a recreation of like Mike Allstott or something. There's more. I know he's dropped. He doesn't have the measurables. He's not the fastest cat. But if you're trying to close out a game or he can impact a game in varied ways, I would not be disappointed at all to get the Arizona State running back.
There's some Austin Eckler there, I think.
On Austin Eckler.
I mean, Austin Eckler would be the valedictorian of that kind of player. I mean, for every Austin Eckler, there's many players that don't make it. But Skattebo seems like the kind of guy that if there's going to be another Austin Eckler, it could be him.
Circles. I run circles and angles. And I'm a red zone machine.
Drive the other team crazy. Like, why can't we stop this guy?
And that's him. So here we are. Spirit of Pip. Prepared, in position. It's what the Chiefs do. And as we get ready for Green Bay and the 2025 draft, just know Brett Veach once again and his group are invoking the spirit of Pip.